Welcome to the Genesis of the Doctor podcast, where we're taking a journey to the time and space of the history of Doctor Who. I'm Tris.
And I'm Joy.
And for today's episode, we're going to step away from the classic era for a moment and finally give our thoughts on the brand new season of Doctor Who with the 15th Doctor and Ruby Sunday. This has been quite the adventure over the last month or so since the season started. And as of recording, the season just finished last night for us, and so we've had the night to kind of sit on our thoughts a bit. But let's go over initial impressions of specifically the finale. Joy, how are you feeling?
I've got mixed feelings on it. Like, I think basically everything they did with Sutek is an interesting way to take things, and like I quite enjoyed all that aspect. I think like the answer to who Ruby's mother is, I feel, is kind of disappointing, especially because like I understand the idea of just making it be a random person, but also like they didn't really do anything with Ruby for the entire season other than say she wants to find her mother, and then the answer is like there isn't really an interesting answer to the question.
Which doesn't help the mysteries that were laid out throughout the season that ultimately many of which didn't get answered, like the snow. Yeah, no, I definitely get that. I'm in a similar boat there, specifically with that, where I think in terms of how it was played out, I do like that Ruby's mother was just somebody because I love the way it was written with the character interactions. But I do understand after a whole season of building it up, for it to just be a normal woman is an interesting choice. That makes me wonder if it maybe wasn't actually their original idea.
Yeah. And like for the snow, it I guess like in Legend of Ruby Sunday, there's like one line where he's like, that night is so like raw or something. So I guess that's why the snow's coming back, is not because of Ruby, but just because of something about that night.
Something about time.
Stuff happened.
Something about time, probably because the Doctor was there, Sutek was there. Who knows what else was probably there? We'll find out Mrs. Flood was there too, or something like that. There's something affecting it in that way, so I guess that's why. Not necessarily that she herself is a god, but she's been touched by gods, I guess. Her life has been touched by gods and influenced by gods in such a way that I guess it's a weird magic thing.
It is also funny, I think, to give her a scene where she leaves the TARDIS when we already know she's not actually leaving the TARDIS.
Yeah, I think so. My theory there, not to get like too far ahead into all this, because obviously we'll talk about the rest of the episode too, but my theory is that she's not the main active companion next season, but she keeps coming back. Not quite like Martha in series 4, but almost like Jack in season 1. Where, like, once he joined the TARDIS, he was there for the rest of it. I think she's going to be like that, where the Doctor's going to have some adventures without her, but once he brings her back in, she's there for the rest of it.
Yeah. On Doctor Who Unleashed, Russell T. Davies did say, like, this is just a pause to her story, and we will get back to her next season.
Okay. It's a way to explain why the Doctor has an adventure without her for the Christmas special that isn't the ADHD answer of Matt Smith does a lot of things.
Yeah. I guess it also technically lets Big Finish be like, we're just going to tell a bunch of stories in this time now.
That's true. It does give like a very easy point to tell a bunch of stories from.
Because the Ninth Doctor has that issue where technically the Ninth Doctor never has a chance to have stories without Rose.
Yeah. When do his audio stories take place?
They're all before Rose. And I guess you're just supposed to think
weird.
He never looks in a mirror anytime. That's what you're supposed to think.
All right. I mean, he made it seem like that was a new regeneration at the time, or new enough regeneration. Anyway. So yeah, I want to jump back a little bit to Sutek specifically, because this was the big bad, the god that other gods feared, and the way he was handled, I feel like when you look back at Pyramids of Mars, I did look at like all the clips that the Doctor Who YouTube channel put up. I haven't seen the episode in a very long time, so I don't actively remember every detail. But it it's kind of funny seeing people online talk about how, oh, they did Sutek dirty, they didn't do a good enough job with him. But it's like, I feel like, at least from the cliff notes I got from the Doctor Who YouTube channel highlights they put up, it's kind of similar to what he was back then too.
Yeah, pretty much.
Same way of defeating him, of trapping him in the time vortex.
Yeah, I haven't seen Pyramid of Mars. I've seen people like talking about who Sutek is and stuff, but
right,
he doesn't do much in Pyramids of Mars, from what I understand.
Yeah, so it's like, exactly. That's why I feel like
they let him kill all of existence. I feel like he got to do more now this time.
Exactly. All he had was like the threat of doing such before, and the Doctor stopped him before he could. Now it's all right. Now the Doctor has to undo it. There is a big difference here.
Technically, he killed 2 universes as well, because one of the scenes when they're showing like where the TARDIS has landed, one of those scenes was Bad Wolf Bay in a different universe.
That's interesting. I didn't even.
It was there.
That's interesting. So all the different wow. Okay, so it's everywhere the TARDIS has landed. That's true. Wow.
And it did land in an alternate universe once.
It is actually really funny, like retroactively when you look back at that. Like, does that mean there were 3 Suteks in the 50th anniversary, for example, or or however many Doctors surrounded Gallifrey in that climax? Were there that many Suteks? Like, how did Sutek feel in Flatline, where the TARDIS was shrinking down? Was he just like a Chihuahua at that point? Like, what was he?
He was being carried around in Clara's purse.
Yeah, funny. Like, it's really funny. Like, there's a lot of little inconsistencies that really don't make sense if he's just clinging on to the TARDIS, but it's silly and I still like it. Though I do think it probably would have made a little bit more sense contextually if instead of holding on to the TARDIS, if it's like he was absorbed by the TARDIS. Something trapped inside of it. And then you can use the explanation of all of the TARDIS's damage through flux and Donna's coffee is what like broke him out.
Yeah. So
because I think that would make sense.
Yeah, it would make more sense than a random human woman confused him.
So I kind of love that because it's the idea. I guess it's so. I presume the idea there is she was 73 yards away. The idea of she's not close enough to really see her, like see who she was. She just happens to not be close enough to anything to see who she was or what she looked like. And the fact that the Doctor and Ruby and so much of Ruby's life were centered around who is this woman. I love that it was so big that even a god got distracted by this detail, that it became his undoing. Because he was so, just like them, just as obsessed in trying to know, because he was so distracted by it.
Yeah. It is also funny that technically this means in the 50th anniversary special, Tom Baker was reunited with Sutek.
That's true.
He walked right in front of a TARDIS.
Even think of that. I didn't even think of that. That's true. Oh, man.
He was watching. I wonder what he thinks about the Doctor eventually becoming the 4th Doctor again.
He's probably very upset about that.
Yep.
What do you think of Sutek's plan with rolling out the Susan triads everywhere?
I mean, it's an interesting way to do it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was fun, like the idea of it's tied to the perception filter, so it just kind of placed her there, and perception filter she just naturally fit in. And then I understood the idea too of, oh, he's landed on Earth so many times, it made each one essentially more meaningful, more powerful. So of course, at this moment, she's a tech like billionaire. She's incredibly prominent.
And they certainly talk about Susan Foreman quite a bit in that conversation.
Yeah, they even had the colorized footage of her there, and as we both expected, she did not actually show up in the episode beyond that. I think like it's worth noting she probably will come up in a later season. There's no way they laid all these seeds and had him even mentioned it was a mistake to leave her. Maybe I'll see her again, only to not actually do it.
Yeah, she has to be showing up in a future season. I definitely think. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of wondering at this point if maybe Verada Sethu is playing Susan, to be honest.
True, it's possible.
It would make a lot of sense to just have her come back as a new companion.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, like,
it would.
You can have Caroline Ford in, like, the premiere and then have her regenerate.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a new companion.
Yeah, true. I will note, I remember, I think it was the production news account, or like the filming site account, noted they heard her name might be Belinda.
Yeah.
But I think that, one, for the filming, they could actually use a different name because it's a public filming and they don't want people to hear it. They could do that and then, edit in post, have him record yelling Susan instead. Or she could pick a different name with each regeneration, because she's not the Doctor, the Master, the Monk, the Rani. She's a human name. That's her whole thing. What if just each regeneration she picks a different human name?
Yeah, because, like, Susan Foreman, they picked from the scrapyard. So, like, Susan might not even be her actual name.
Yeah, it was the name she liked best for that regeneration, at least.
Yeah. I feel like it's definitely worth noting, though, that, like, if they did hear him yelling Susan, it would be very big news. So obviously, they would just not want to have that being said on the streets.
Yeah.
Everybody would have questions.
Yeah, exactly. And then they go, no, it was Susan Twist.
Yeah.
So Empire of Death as a whole, though, I really liked how well the emotional moments were handled in this. Specifically, like, for example, the scene of Ruby finding her birth mother and actually interacting with her reminded me of some of the more emotional scenes of, like, Donna and Wilf, or Rose and her mother. There was just something about the emotion of that scene that's like, yeah, that's an RTD family emotional scene right there. I do really like that. I also love... I've seen a lot of debate about this online, but I love the quiet moment the Doctor has with the woman that gives him the spoon. Even though it's really silly that he's given a spoon, just the compassion that this Doctor has for the dying universe, that's really this Doctor's character. Like, his whole thing is how empathetic he is and how compassionate he is, even more than past Doctors. That he will sit there to, someone's end.
Yeah. It's definitely a nice scene there.
Mm-hmm.
I have
a little random, but...
Yeah. I have complicated feelings on, like, the whole birth mother plot, because it's also, like, I think it's a little weird to have an adopted character so obsessed with finding their birth parents.
Yeah.
Like, I understand it, but also she calls this her real mother and her real father, and, like, I don't know. That's no, they're not her real parents. Her real parents are
Carla and Cherry.
That's her real mother.
That's her real family. Yeah, that definitely felt like a case similar to the Star Beast of RTD writing Rose, of maybe consult with people familiar with these situations to proofread your script there a little bit. Because it's not bad intent with how Ruby feels about her birth mother, but it's all about the phrasing. Using real for those is not right. You want to use birth in that case, her birth mother, her birth father, or even original mother, original father. But some sort of scene, like a little bit more than what we got of Carla and the birth mother, whose name currently escapes me, would have been really nice, because we had, like, we know how Carla feels. It's been said in multiple episodes, but some sort of interaction between them, saying something, I think would have been big. And we know Ruby truly does believe, no, Carla is her mother. We had that at the end of Space Babies, but I think another reiteration on that point in this episode would have been important.
I feel like even just, like, somewhere in the season, you could have had a scene where it's like she's talking to Carla and she tells Carla, like, as much as I want to find my birth family, nothing will ever change the fact that you're my mother. Like,
that would have been really
anywhere would have worked.
Yeah. That probably would have fit best in the Christmas special. Back in her introductory episode. And I think we got that implied, to be honest. Like, we really got that implied, but it wasn't, like, outright said, and I feel like it should have been. Because you're right. It's the idea of being so obsessed with the birth parent is not common. I mean, it happens, I'm sure. Like, it definitely happens, I'm sure. But yeah, the degree of obsession, I do understand the idea of, after all the build-up, the fact that it didn't end up being some bigger mysterious thing. She wasn't a Time Lord. She wasn't another god or related to the gods. Or the biggest theory people had was she was her own mother through some time weird shenanigans.
Yeah.
Like, I understand people being disappointed that it wasn't that, because the build-up was there. But I really do like that she was a normal woman, because I think it grounds it back to not every companion is some big universal thing like Donna with the Dr. Donna or Clara. Like, it, and I know we just got off of a whole era where the companions were also just normal people, but I think it helps to re-ground it back to that, because you want to keep these characters relatable. You don't want to have so many companions be this big fact in space-time. You want them to be people.
Yeah. I definitely liked how they kept her a bit more grounded like that.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, though, I'm not a big fan of Ruby in general, because like they don't do anything with her. Like, we don't know anything about her other than she wants to find her birth family and she's in a band with her friends. Other than that, like, there's not much to her there.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason why she's in a band is so that in Devil's Chord she can play music.
That is kind of one of my complaints about the season as a whole. I don't quite have it, but I understand how a lot of people feel of, in so many other eras, we have much more development for the Doctor and the companion and their relationship together, and, you know, to really give you an idea of who they are. We know very well who this Doctor is. But so much of what we know about Ruby is, as you mentioned, these couple of facts about her, and we see she has a good relationship with the Doctor, but we didn't see them develop to that point, and we don't know more about her. We're not constantly learning fun little details about her like we did most of the other companions. So it does stand out.
She does kind of remind me of Series 7B Clara, to be honest.
Yeah.
Where
I can see
there's
that.
just this mystery, and that's all the character is for this point.
The focus is the mystery, yeah.
Luckily, she's here for another season, so she might get more development like Clara did.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I hope so.
I guess we'll see. It is also worth noting that, like, there's no conflict between the Doctor and Ruby, also, which is like, there's always conflict with the companion somewhere, but there's never a moment where Ruby questions what the Doctor's doing or anything, so it feels a bit underdeveloped there.
Yeah. And it's again, it's a case of, I would have loved an episode or two of their relationship developing to the point it's at now. Because the point it's at now, it's okay, they're really good friends. She knows to just trust him. But we didn't see them get to that point where, those moments where she does doubt him or something. And it would have been nice to have that, because it would have added to her character. It would have added to why the Doctor reveres her so much, and why she reveres the Doctor so much, and the relationship they have.
Mm-hmm. I do also think it's a little it's a little funny how, like, right before this season, obviously we had the 60th anniversary specials, and honestly, I feel like the best friend dynamic works better with Donna with the Doctor than Ruby with the Doctor. Like, Donna with the Doctor, I feel like is the best friends dynamic you could write.
Yes.
For the Doctor. And then here it just feels like, I mean, they're friends, but are they best friends? I'm not sure. I think they're best friends.
Yeah, you know what? Let's talk about this. Because I have 3 more notes specifically from Empire of Death that I want to touch upon before we get into, like, other things in the whole season. So let's touch upon this part of their relationship. The idea of, like, what they are. Like, they're I believe the two of them described their friendship, their relationship as, like, 2 schoolgirl besties, basically. Who, like, get into trouble together. And you definitely feel that energy, even as early as Devil's Chord. But at the very end of Empire of Death, before she walks out of the TARDIS, Ruby says, "I love you" to the Doctor. And I've seen this already being like a really, really huge like point of discussion online, because it depends on how people are interpreting it. The people that are taking it as, oh, another romance for the Doctor, yes, of course they're not liking it, because that's out of nowhere, because that's not what it is.
Yeah.
It's very much, I think the way it's supposed to be interpreted is he's family to her. Like, he's another part of her family, and she's right after talking about how, your own granddaughter you didn't go back to see her. She doesn't want to lose the Doctor, too, just after finding more of her family. She doesn't want to lose some of it. I think it's that friend, family, I love you, which is why it was so impactful.
And he says, I forget what the exact line is, but he says, like, she altered his perception of family or something like that.
Yep.
So, like, I feel like he's definitely saying, like, we're a family, is what he's saying. We are family.
Yes, and I think that's important. I mean, because Ruby's whole thing really is found family. Yeah. And that's the whole dynamic the two of them should have as well, since they're both adopted. That was kind of what they set up way back on the Church on Ruby Road, of what the dynamic was going to be. So for them to end, with that, of her walking out of the TARDIS with an "I love you" because they're family, that's important. And I think too many people are missing that.
Yeah. I mean, he has a romance. It's not Ruby.
Yeah, exactly. He literally just had a romance story like 2 episodes ago. No, she did not mean that romantically. My other thing I wanted to bring up from Empire Death, which is and kind of the episode before as well, Legend of Ruby Sunday. How did you feel about how UNIT was utilized through these 2 episodes?
I kind of feel, in general, it has been funny just in Russell D. Davis's return, where UNIT is laughably ineffective in every episode they're in. Like, they're either getting brainwashed by the villain, or they're just unable to do anything whatsoever. And, like, that's just what they are in every episode.
But, like, they're self-aware of it. Like, Kate even goes, one day the guns will work.
Yeah.
But I think
that's just funny, though.
No, it definitely is funny. But I think something I noticed mostly in this story, and the seeds were probably there back in like the 60th as well, but I only really noticed it in this 2-parter. UNIT very much feels now what Torchwood used to be.
Yeah.
UNIT does not feel like what it was even in the original RTD era, where UNIT is much more, this is the government rolling out the anti-alien defense, whereas Torchwood was above the law and its own entity. That's what UNIT is now. And all the faces of UNIT aren't different soldiers that rose through the ranks and want to meet the Doctor. It's all the Doctor's friends, people inspired by him, and like former companions,
and relatives of former companions.
And relatives, yes.
Because there is also the woman that was with Ruby in the time window at the end. Her last name is Sullivan, and there is Harry Sullivan.
Yeah,
the 4th Doctor knew.
I didn't.
People were pointing that out.
Sullivan. And Harry Sullivan stuck with UNIT, so yeah, that checks out. Yeah. That checks out.
So it's all a big family.
Yeah, it really is. But it really does feel different than the UNIT we knew before, for better or worse. Because I can understand people not liking that if it changed too much. But I kind of like this because it invalidates the need. It means we don't need to bring back the Torchwood. Everybody for some reason wants to bring back specifically Torchwood with Jack and Gwen and all these. But I like that UNIT has evolved into that, because UNIT has so much more history to the show, and seeing Mel and Ace and Tegan and all these other notable characters part of UNIT has the same energy as oh man, Martha might join Torchwood that we had back in the original RTD era. It's that same kind of thing, but I think UNIT's doing it a little bit better because it's a little bit more organized on that front.
Yeah, and they could always bring back any companion they want to, because we know Kate Stewart goes to the companion meetings. So she could literally invite anyone. Meetings?
She goes to the companion meetings with a pen with a pen and paper to write down names, and especially if there's any children involved, she wants them on her team. The memes that come out of that It's so funny.
You know, she talks to the doctor, and it's like, I never knew you had a granddaughter. Like, you go to meetings with Ian Chesterton, and you don't know he has a granddaughter?
Yeah. I mean,
I
maybe
don't
he
think
just
that
doesn't
adds
talk
up.
about that. Maybe he just doesn't. I mean, I imagine in his old age, Ian wasn't talking about the doctor's granddaughter, Susan. It was just one of our students, Susan, was also,
Yeah.
an active companion. Like, it's
It's
the way
possible
he talks about it.
they could just say that, like, he might not have good memory in
Yeah.
the later years of his life, so he might not remember.
I did catch people were talking about I think it was in the 50th anniversary when they go to the Black Archive and they have like the wall of like all the former companions that they've talked about
Yeah.
or they talked to, and Ian and Susan and Barbara are all on there. So they definitely knew who Susan was at some point.
Technically, they might not know that she is his granddaughter, though. Like, they would know.
Yeah, exactly.
They traveled together,
but
they might not know any details about who she is.
Exactly. That's I think the key thing there. They may not have realized she was his granddaughter, just someone else who traveled with him.
Yeah.
But I do like how Unit is prominently here. Even if, yes, as we mentioned, they're kind of useless in terms of how much they're actually getting done. But there was that really great moment, not in Empire Death, but in Legend of Ruby Sunday, where the doctor talks to Kate, yes, about the granddaughter, but that moment between the two of them about talking about family is something I haven't realized how much we've needed a scene like that between them, and we haven't had that in the 10 years since her character was introduced. She represents the Brigadier, who's like one of the closest people to the Doctor, and they've not had like a small intimate moment like that.
Yeah, and I feel like they're trying to develop her as character a bit more now as well, because like before this, she was never really developed that well, and then now you really get a feel that like she cares about every single person at Unit.
I love that.
Like,
I love that.
When the guy dies in Legend of Ruby Sunday, there's also when like rewind to the 60th anniversary specials, like when the toy maker pushes the team off of the roof.
Yep.
At the end, she's like, "I want all of their names and stuff."
Yep.
And like she really cares about everyone that works there, which is
I
nice.
I wonder if she cares this much because she lost the entire Unit team to the Cybermen in Power of the Doctor.
Yeah.
She was the only person with Tegan to make it out of that building that she destroyed.
And I mean, also, before that, there was also the Zygon thing.
That's true, too.
We don't know how many people survived from there.
Yeah, that's a whole mess. But I like Kate's character now compared to what she was before, is the point I'm making. And I like Unit's presence.
She was kind of just like generic character before, and then now they're starting to do a bit more with her.
Yeah.
Which might be because they're trying to do a spin-off with her, apparently.
It does sound like that, yeah. I mean, she has her own audio series with Unit already, so they already have some level of experience of a spin-off for her. It's just, can we get one televised or not? We'll see.
Yeah.
I have one last... Oh, yeah.
I did like Rose being there.
Yeah,
that's a bit weird.
That's what I wanted to bring up, actually. Funny enough. That's what I wanted to bring up. I wanted to ask how you felt about Rose being there, because she had one singular line in Empire of Death.
Yeah, I mean, they killed off basically everybody in that scene, but I like having her there in Legend of Ruby Sunday, and she has a great dynamic with Ruby as well, like immediately.
I do like that. I do like how the two of them are like already friends. What I'm iffy on is I feel like they hyped up her return and like that she was gonna play a big role, possibly in the same way as Mel. Like, I thought she was gonna end up in the memory TARDIS, just like Ruby and Mel. I thought she was gonna go with them. So the fact that she didn't go with Ruby to the time window, I was like, oh, that's odd. Because I thought it felt like they were building up. She's around Ruby's age. She's there to support Ruby as someone who understands where she's coming from around the same age. Yeah. No. So I kind of looked at it as like, it felt like she should have just been a cameo then in like a couple scenes, but they actively kept her there and treated her like she was going to be as important as the other characters in the story. And then she had one line in part 2. So I was honestly, I was disappointed by how she was handled, in part 2 specifically, only because I think if you were going to bring her back and bring back the daughter of Donna Noble and make a statement about how she's going to be a recurring character, since Donna herself probably won't be, I would have liked to see her do a little bit more.
Yeah. I'm of two minds there, because, like, it would have been nice to see a bit more of her, but I don't really think she would have worked in Mel's position as much, especially because the position that we end up going with is Sutek takes over Mel's mind and everything. And I feel like it would maybe muddy the ending of Starbeast a bit if immediately next time we see her, she's being brainwashed by someone else, where her ending is like, I'm finally me, and then immediately we have somebody else taking over her mind. I feel like that would have been a bit weird.
I don't necessarily mean instead of Mel. Like, I mean, like, it still all could have happened to Mel, and Rose could have been there. But I don't know. It's a case of, I felt like the opportunity was very clearly there to show her on an adventure with them, but she's not the main focus. She's just is there to help.
Yeah.
Probably would have... I don't know. I'm not necessarily saying it would have been better. I'm saying I would have liked to see it, because they made a big deal about her coming back and then didn't do anything with her. So I was a bit disappointed by that.
It would have been nice, but I feel like the smaller team you have in the memory TARDIS there, the better it works, I feel, to be honest.
That's very true.
Like, I would have liked to see her more. I'm not sure if there really was any room for her in those scenes and stuff.
That's fair.
Maybe we'll bring her back next season, and then we'll get a bit more.
It's true. I do think every time Unit comes back, she's going to be there, simply because 14 and Donna won't be.
Yeah.
She's kind of there to represent them, I think. So
I would also like to note that it kind of seems like they're trying to tease a romance with Ibrahim and Kate at the end there, where they're holding hands and stuff.
Oh, I do want to address that. I remember, I forget when it was. I think it was around the 60th anniversary. People actually theorize it's not that it's a romance; it's that people theorizing that's her son. And I think I like that angle better. Yeah, I think I like that angle better because I think it adds an interesting dynamic, and adds to the meme of every kid's gonna get recruited by Unit, including her own.
Yeah. The doctor also flirts with him when
he does flirt with it.
That would be very funny if the doctor had a romance with Kate's son.
That would be really funny.
The Brigadier's grandson.
Oh my gosh. I kind of want that to happen now just because it'd be a really funny scene. But no, I think the impression I get is that like there is something between them, but I think it's the case of that's her son, but she's keeping it professional and not babying him kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think that's why she was more protective of him. Not just because she didn't want to lose another soldier, but because, that's hers, not her son. It kind of makes sense, right? That if she ever had kids, they too would end up in Unit, just like how she did after the Brigadier.
Yeah. There was also, I wanted to note that one of the planets they mentioned dies was Vortis, which is the web planet that we just watched.
Yep.
Which I do have to question how, because the Doctor never went back there, unless we're saying somehow Sutek got on an earlier form of the TARDIS. I'm not sure how that works, but it is nice to just have that little mention.
I think Mel had mentioned when they were in the memory TARDIS, like, but there must be places you haven't landed. Surely they're fine. I think he mentioned it doesn't matter. It's still going over the whole of creation.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe the Doctor went back to that galaxy at some point and it just spread from there. That's what you're saying.
I can't believe just a season later the Doctor has another universe destroying event to get through.
Yeah. I think it would have been funny to see Menoptera Susan twist though. That would have been funny. Oh my gosh.
That would have been great. Oh man. Speaking of Susan Twist, let's use that as a segue to talk about the season as a whole, because she kept popping up. She kept popping up throughout the whole season. But before we get into any like particular thoughts about the season as a whole, because we don't have a ton of time to be able to talk about every single episode here.
Yeah.
What would you? I'll leave it up to you if you want to do favorite episode of the season or like top 3 of the season.
I guess we could do top 3.
Okay. Then I will let you pick. I guess we'll do number 3 first.
I would probably say my third favorite would probably be Rogue. Mm-hmm. Just because it feels very different. Because, like, obviously we have different writers who haven't worked on the show before. I'm not really the biggest fan of romance stories with the Doctor, as I've said in the past, but I feel like this one works better than most of them have. I would say my favorite is still Yaz and the 13th Doctor, but this one felt like, I feel like it's a bit better to not have the Doctor have a romance with their main companion, just because there's maybe a power imbalance there at times, and also most of the Doctor's companions have been 19-year-old Earth women, which is a little weird. Like, they're all as young as Millie Gibson actually is, so, you know, it's a little weird at times.
That's true. There's
also great moments in that episode, like, Shudigatwa, before he got the role, wanted to either be the Doctor or Willy Wonka, and guess what? He gets to sing a Wonka song.
Yeah! Yeah, clearly had a really good time with that one. That is also my number 3, Rogue. Like, some of the best character interactions from the Doctor. In that episode. Like, they had so much fun, and you can tell.
Yeah. I do wish that the Doctor interacted with Ruby a bit more in that, but that's mostly just because it was coming off of 2 Doctor Light episodes where they never interacted.
Yeah, that's very true. Coming off of a few episodes with there wasn't as much presence in the Doctor, there wasn't as much between the Doctor and Ruby. It definitely makes sense. And I do think we probably could have had a shift in the episode order, and things probably would have felt a little bit better. But, yeah.
I mean, the issue was that the Doctor is given a ring in this episode, so they didn't have him in the ring in the other episodes, so they couldn't shift it around the last minute. If they had thought of it before they filmed, they would have been able to have him wear the ring, but he was only wearing the ring in the finale. So
I forgot. I was gonna say I forgot to check if he was actually wearing the ring in the finale.
Yeah, I think he is actually wearing it there.
Good.
I've seen people posting about it. Also, the Shalka Doctor is canon now, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's a really weird point.
Also, the 3rd Doctor image they used there was from Dimensions in Time, which was technically like the 30th anniversary special, where they're all just walking around interacting with EastEnders characters, which is interesting.
They also picked a really unflattering image of Matt Smith, so...
Yeah, I think a lot of them were unflattering.
Picks. Yeah. Could have been better.
The Fugitive Doctor was also there, though, which is nice to see. So include her there.
Good little cameo. I'm glad they showed so many of them.
I think we might want to extend our podcast, though, at the end, and just include Scream of the Shalka, at least. Maybe some other stuff from that time.
Yeah.
Because some of it might be important when we get there.
Evidently, yeah. Alright, let's do your number 2 from this season, since we both shared the same number 3.
73 Yards would have to be my second favorite, I would say.
Ooh.
Because, like, it's just a very interesting episode, and gets you thinking about, like, what exactly is happening and everything.
Yeah.
Like,
it was so mysterious.
A lot of people have complained about, like, literally no answers being given to you, but I think, like, my theory is that you're supposed to think the scene in the pub, they are actually telling you the truth, they just don't believe it. I think that's what the episode's trying to tell you.
I completely agree.
You did step on a fairy circle, and the Doctor was taken away, it's just that these people don't believe in fairy circles. So that's your answer right there.
Like, they're telling you folklore. They didn't come out of, like, they didn't just come up with this on the spot. The Mad Jack murder stuff, yes, they did. But but the folklore part of it, they definitely, like, have, but it's just they don't believe in it. Yeah, you're right.
It does make me wonder at the end, though, like, why did Sutek not activate here? I guess maybe because he witnessed the Doctor being taken away by the fairy circle and he was confused as to what happened there, so he was waiting for an answer to show up. And then...
I mean, his whole thing is revenge against the Doctor. If the Doctor's gone, he's like, oh, well, I mean, what am I going to do now? I guess I'll go back to sleep.
Yeah. At first I was thinking maybe the reason why the TARDIS was locked off was because it was locking Sutek inside. But then afterwards we found out like he wasn't actually inside; he was on the outside.
He was on it. Yeah, very weird. Very weird. There's definitely like a lot of unanswered things with 73 yards, especially since 73 yards kind of came back into importance in the finale. And then it makes you wonder if the whole thing happened to give a version of Ruby the info she needed, which, even more mysterious.
Yeah, for me, it's also like 73 yards is like the one episode where they actually developed Ruby a bit more.
Yeah.
Which, unfortunately, it ends up getting erased and she doesn't remember most of it, but we get like a better feeling for her in that episode than we do anywhere else, I feel.
Yeah, we get the better feeling of who she is as a person.
Yeah.
Because that wouldn't change outside of the circumstances that she went through, which, oh god, you just feel so bad for her throughout that entire story.
Yeah.
So, for me, my number 2 has to be Devil's Cord. I love this episode. I thought the performances were beautiful, and they clearly had so much fun doing so many different scenes in this. Like, obviously, the twist at the end music video thing was a lot of fun. Something, just like how they cloned the TARDIS with the Toymaker's influence, the residual influence of Maestro and Control of Music let them put together this. Something fun like that. Sure, fine. I enjoyed that, but even like the threat of the gods felt so apparent there. And the scene of where the Doctor uses the sonic screwdriver to like silence everything was like really powerful.
That would be my favorite episode of the season. So
oh wow,
I
okay.
agree. I agree with basically everything you said there.
Mm-hmm.
Like that scene where they mute the entire episode, like that is absolutely amazing. And Maestro is just such an iconic character immediately.
So good.
Like, I hope they bring Maestro back at some point. Maybe not super soon, but at some point.
Not gonna lie, when in the Empire of Death, when the opera house got mentioned by the woman with the spoon, I kind of thought, like back in my head, it's like, no, they're not going back to Maestro already, are they? Like, I thought maybe he was gonna try to talk to her or something to get an idea of how to stop Sutekh.
Yeah, probably would have been a bit too busy of an episode to include them in there.
No, but my show was so cool.
Yeah,
they were awesome. The whole music battle is also really silly, but like it was done so well. Like it was such a fun episode.
Yeah, I also liked just the beginning of it where Maestro begins to play the theme tune, and then the theme tune comes out of the jukebox at the end.
Yeah, that was cool.
Also, apparently, that jukebox actually just has a code you can put in to play the Doctor Who theme tune.
Oh, that's cool.
On Doctor Who Unleashed, they showed Shugatwa being like, I was told if you put in 010, it will play something special. And then he does it.
Oh my god.
The Doctor Who theme tune.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, they had, definitely so much fun. Fun. And I think it was the perfect second episode to pair with Space Babies because it was so tonally different.
Yeah. Space Babies is like, this is how weird Doctor Who can get, so if this upsets you, don't keep watching. And then
I think Space Babies was a totally fine opener.
Devil's Cord is a much more highbrow episode.
Yep. Absolutely.
I think they were a very good two things to start with. Although Space Babies feels like maybe it was supposed to be before the season because it's definitely more a part 2 of the Christmas special than a part 1 of the season.
It really is.
Especially since there's a 6-month break between the two episodes there.
Easter special.
Yeah.
Let's do that again. But for me, my favorite this season was Boom. I've been thinking on all the episodes this season. I really landed back on Boom. How much was able to get done in this episode with the Doctor staying in one place the entire time was incredible. The moment of Ruby handing the object, the remains, to the Doctor, and the way that whole scene plays out is beautiful. It's so tense and it's so well done. And then, of course, Stephen Moffat has to come in and say, hey, I'm known for killing companions. Let's kill her again.
Yep, got a fake out death.
Really good fake out death, but what I love about Boom is the entire episode is designed, like everything about the episode is designed to make the Doctor fail, to make him like stressed out and to set it off, and he manages to overcome it. And like the supporting cast overall, in terms of who their characters are, they're meant to be frustrating because they're not listening to the Doctor. They're meant to make the situation even worse for him. So when I see people going on, it's like, oh, they can't stand this little girl or this soldier. They can't stand these other characters. Like, well, yes, that's the point, because the Doctor barely would either, but he has to right now. The whole point of the episode is it's an entire scenario designed to make the Doctor fail, like really intricately designed to make him fail, and he made it out.
Yeah, I liked that episode quite a bit too. It's not quite my top 3, but might be like top 4. I'm not sure. I'd have to think a bit more, but yeah, it was fun. I felt like some parts of it I feel didn't work that well. Like, you know, the kid, it seems like they probably wanted to, like, the writing was expecting a toddler there, I feel, to an extent.
The writing did feel like it was expecting someone around 5 or 6 years old.
And then they cast someone older, and then they just didn't really adjust the dialogue at times. And then I feel like the romance between Monday and the dude kind of felt like it was a bit forced. And also just like it's just there to just generate drama to an extent.
Yeah, which, I mean, it definitely was, which is kind of the point.
That is what Moffat does with romances. Like, it just feels a little weird at times there. But yeah, it was a good episode. Shudigatwa did an amazing performance there.
Yeah, that is really why I love it. Is the performance from Shudi, and also from Millie Gibson, just in the scenes she has before she's fake dead. The scenes they have were so powerful to me. Like, I loved that, and those were the moments I'm like, okay, I love what they're doing this season.
Yeah.
Also, it's the episode that gave us the iconic line. Or that it was the episode that was the premise for the iconic line of "Hand outstretched. Do you dream of being an ambulance?"
Yeah, that was very funny.
I can't believe he actually asked that. That was so funny.
Yeah.
Legend Ruby Sunday, iconic quote. Anyway, so those were our favorites, our top 3 of the season, but. How would you say you felt about this season as a whole, and our first full season with the 15th Doctor and Ruby Sunday, and knowing we've got season 2 on the way next year?
It's very complicated. I would say that, like, I think these are very good episodes where, like, if I'm watching them out of context of the full season, I will quite enjoy watching all of them. Like, but I think as a whole, I don't think the season works as well as maybe it could have. Especially as a first season for a new Doctor and a new companion, and we have two episodes where the Doctor's not there. Well, the Doctor's not there for one, and then is on a Zoom call for the second one. Like, and even with the other episodes, like, they're trying to not do typical things with the Doctor, where, like, the first 2 episodes, he's scared, and he notes he's not normally scared. And then the third episode, he's standing in one place for the whole time. So I feel like it's not really a great season 1 for a new Doctor, I feel. Because we don't really get the best feel for him at times. Like, it would be a good second season for a Doctor, I feel, but not.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that. I've heard a lot of people say most of the stories this season feel like a season 2 episode, or like a season 2 story for the Doctor.
And then, like I said, I feel like they didn't really do much with Ruby. They didn't develop her as a character. They developed her as a mystery instead of developing her as a character.
Yeah.
So, like,
which, now that most of her mystery is over, hopefully we can get more of her as a character.
Yeah, like, I think they're very good episodes. I just think once you put them all together as a season, I don't think it fits together as well as it could have. Just in general.
Yeah, I think the season arc could have been better. But, like, every individual story, like, on their own, I think was, like, really good.
Yeah.
which is a bit different than what we would expect from RTD in the past. Because normally, I think RTD was typically pretty good at like the season arc, and even though there would be some highlight episodes, the season arc was kind of more so what he was known for.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I really liked the season. I do agree there's definitely elements of it that could have been better, and I think there were a lot of little inconsistencies that came about from when they were filming, maybe not quite knowing what the episode order was going to be.
Yeah.
Like Devil's Cord being 6 months after Space Babies, but Boom being Ruby's first time on an alien planet feels a little strange.
Yeah. And I definitely think it would have been a bit better if the 2 Dr. Light episodes were not back to back as well.
Yep. I think it should have been like it should have been like episode like 3 and like 6.
Yeah.
Like they shouldn't have been back to back. They should have been spaced out a bit more. But
yeah. I feel to an extent maybe Russell D. Davis spread himself a bit too thin too, because like he wrote 6 of these episodes, and I feel like if he just gave like the middle 2 episodes to someone else, it maybe would have worked a bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because
that's why I'm hopeful for next season, because he's doing less of them next season and doing more show running rather than script writing. I think that'll help for next season. I think it'll feel a bit better. Especially
because like I think Dot and Bubble probably would have been better to be written by a black person, you know?
yeah. I really liked that last scene and like the reveal of all the racism. I thought it was really powerful, but I also think it probably would have been better if written by someone who understands those experiences firsthand.
Yeah. Like there has been a lot of praise for that episode. There's also been a lot of criticism. I feel like just get a black person to write it and solve all your problems.
Yes.
Especially because like, you know, there's also maybe some weird comments behind the scenes where he's like, you know, if you go through the whole episode and you don't notice that the whole entire cast is white, what does that say about like why didn't you notice it? And then you look at behind the scenes, there's only there's no black writers this season. There is one black director who did the Christmas special, and that's it.
Yep.
So it's like maybe you didn't think that comment through as well as you could have.
Yeah, maybe not as well as you could have or should have, but all right.
like not to make this a fight of the showrunners, but like Chris Chibnall had a lot of female writers and directors when he had the 13th Doctor.
He was really good for that. That was a really good point of that era too. Yeah, you had a lot of people that understood firsthand a lot of what they were writing for.
And then when they did Rosa, co-written by a black woman. So, you know.
Yep, it's telling, honestly. It is. It's different approaches, but I do think having, you know, these approaches be written and done by people that know them firsthand, understand them better firsthand would help. Or at least, you know, maybe consult them a little bit more.
Yeah. I've been thinking lately that I think maybe Doctor Who's biggest issue that it has is maybe we shouldn't have just one showrunner. Maybe we should have a writer's room. We have a bunch of people together.
I was actually thinking that. Earlier. I was actually thinking if they really like the idea of bringing back showrunners and whatnot, if they really want to work with older showrunners, I would rather we have something like RTD and Moffat together doing it and coming up with something together instead of all on one person. Because I do think that would help. But yeah, I agree. Having like 2 or 3 as like a round table, I think would actually benefit a lot, I think.
Because like that's how a lot of shows are done these days, where you just have an entire writer's room. Technically, you have like one person in charge, but like everything is being decided by multiple different people, and that also helps you get those diverse opinions into the writer's room and stuff. Like Star Beast would have benefited probably from having a genderqueer person in the writer's room.
Yeah, you know? Probably.
And then definitely for the first Black Doctor, you should probably have some black writers involved.
Yeah.
There. We don't yet.
Yeah, hopefully soon, you know. It would be nice. Okay, we're running a little bit low on time, but before we get into other things, I do just want to ask how you're feeling about Mrs. Flood.
I feel like she's probably going to be the villain next season. I think that's what they're building up to. Or maybe a season after, who knows?
She's so mysterious.
I'm assuming she's probably a god of some kind.
Yeah.
Although, technically, like, the Doctor breaks the fourth wall, which is... So, like, maybe she's a Time Lord, and we're saying Time Lords can break the fourth wall as well as gods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have this theory. I have this theory. Like, yes, we've seen the Doctor break the fourth wall when using the gods' magic, specifically.
Yeah.
For the most part, or when involved with the
The
gods.
12th Doctor did it a lot, too.
The 12th Doctor did do it a lot. The 12th Doctor... but they almost treated that like the Doctor's talking to his companion, but you're his companion in that moment. But
yeah,
the way they set up Mrs. Flood addressing the audience... I noticed something. I had this theory come to mind when I was rewatching the episode last night. Because I was watching it on Disney Plus with subtitles on. And I noticed when she starts narrating the end of Ruby, when she's standing on the roof, when she's talking about the end of Ruby's story there, it doesn't name her as Mrs. Flood in the subtitles. It says narrator. And it had me think about how her whole thing has been like she's telling a story. Never seen a TARDIS before is like something you would say to like a kid after telling the story, and the TARDIS flies off, raises hand, "What's a TARDIS?" And like she starts oh, like, what? You've never seen this before? And so I started thinking about it, like every moment she's had where she's addressing the audience, she's talking directly into the camera. She's like the only one doing that, and it's very direct, almost like she's a storyteller or a narrator. And I started thinking, since she knows about the gods, what if she is also some other deity of some kind, and her whole thing is about telling and realizing stories? I think she's responsible for Ruby's snow because she saw the legend of Ruby Sunday, and she understands it and said, let's turn that into a story. Snaps her fingers, and now it's more magical because it's like a storybook influence going on. So, because the idea of the snow is like what you would... It's like what you would see if this was a children's storybook being told to you, and the magic of her wanting to know who she was made it snow. Like, that feels like something that a storyteller would have. So I'm thinking, my theory is that Mrs. Flood is some sort of deity that's telling stories, and the reason why she in Empire of Death specifically referenced two different Doctor companions, being Clara in the way she dressed and called and referred to the Doctor as Clever Boy. And the white jacket she's wearing on the rooftop is, I think it's Romana's jacket, fourth Doctor companion. I think she knows the Doctor's story as well. She's a storyteller, and she's also telling his story. And she's kind of mocking him in the process.
Yeah. And at this point, I'm wondering if she's the hand that picks up the tooth.
That's what I'm thinking, too.
So she's going to bring the Master back to tell a story about the Doctor fighting the Master.
Yes. I think it's her whole thing about challenging God that she told to Cherry. I think it's that she's tired of telling stories. She wants to write stories. She's making stories. I don't know. That's my whole theory.
Should be interesting to see where they go with her.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like at this point we have like two threads for next season, which is maybe bring Susan back, and then whatever Mrs. Flood is up to.
Yeah. Yep, and I'm definitely excited to see what they do with them. I do think, too...
It's also worth noting that Mrs. Flood acts differently before the Doctor goes back in time in Church on Ruby Road, where she seems like just a regular person at first.
Yep.
And then she's replaced by something else afterwards. Where she
Which is why I think
watches the TARDIS.
Tied to the god. Which is why I think it's tied to the god yet again, because it's almost like the Arbingers or like Susan Twist or Susan Triad. The whole thing of seemingly normal until something awakens.
Yeah.
And I guess it was seeing the TARDIS actually, dematerialize, made her awaken to her role or something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm so curious, and I'm so excited to see what they're doing with that one.
Yeah.
All right. Since we are short on time, let's get into what we got to do for next time. So, Joy, I'm going to toss it to you to kind of describe what we're doing next time in yet another special episode before we get to our next proper episode.
So, for next episode, we will be watching two movies, which are Doctor Who and the Daleks and Dalek Invasion of Earth 2150 AD, which are the two Peter Cushing Doctor Who movies that they released in the 60s. The first one released between season 2 and 3, which is why we're doing this now. And first one's an adaptation of the Dalek serial from the first season. The second one is an adaptation of Dalek Invasion of Earth from the second season.
Yep.
So, as I said last time, they're not streaming anywhere, but they're like $5 each on Microsoft Store and Amazon Prime Video, and I assume like any other digital storefront, they just have all of them there.
Yeah.
For $5 each.
Yeah, they're thankfully pretty cheap to rent off of like Amazon Prime, like different streaming services, but they're not like naturally streaming anywhere from what we found. No.
And there might be a familiar actor in the second one there, known as Bernard Cribbins.
That'll be fun.
He
actually
appears
getting to see that.
as he's essentially like the Ian replacement, I believe, because Ian's not in that one.
Yeah,
he's a different character, but he's plays that role essentially.
Yeah, he's the role of Ian, just not as Ian. Yeah, basically.
Yeah,
and of course, as you guys hear this next episode prep, if you're maybe just tuning into our podcast for the first time because you wanted to hear our thoughts on 15th Doctor and Ruby Sunday, if you're checking out our podcast for the first time, then consider sticking around on our journey through the rest of the classic era. We've done, I think, like 10 episodes now, going through the first 2 original seasons, and it's been a pretty fun journey so far.
We will be starting season 3 2 episodes from now.
Yep. And if you want to stick around with us and support us, you can join our Patreon, where for $1 a month, you will get access into our Discord. And for $5, you'll be able to actually watch live as we record these.
Yep.
All right. Any final thoughts to get out before we close this out then, Joy? Anything from season 1, 15th Doctor, Ruby, next episode prep?
It kind of feels like Russell T Davies is approaching this from a very different perspective as he did last time. Because last time he was here to bring the show back from the dead, so he went like, we got to bring back the Daleks, we got to bring back the Cybermen, we got to bring back the Master. Whereas this time, it feels like he's just doing what he actually wants to do with the show.
Yeah,
he said
you're right.
He has had the idea for Sutekh being on the TARDIS the whole time for 40 years now, and now he's just doing it now because he's not as concerned about like we only have to do the stuff that is absolutely necessary. Yeah, and then he's clearly, I feel, building up to Susan coming back. Maybe that's all a big fake out, but I feel like it's probably happening at some point.
I hope it happens.
This is him being unhinged and doing whatever he wants to, essentially. Whereas he didn't do that last time. Yeah,
no, exactly. And I think
I'm curious to see what he'll do.
It's a big deal. I think it's a big deal because a lot of people look at RTD and they see, RTD's back in showrunner, so they're directly comparing this season to how he handled it before, but that's not the case. He is not returning to showrunner in the same way. He's treating it very much like he's a new showrunner all over again, and I think that's really important. He's learned so much since then, and he's done so much since then, and this isn't RTD1 all over again, and that's important for people to realize, I think.
And there's such a different vibe between bringing a show back from the dead versus working on a show 20 years after it has been brought back from the dead. So there's a very different approach there.
Exactly. All right. Well, I think that'll wrap up this week's episode. So as a reminder, make sure to watch Doctor Who and the Daleks and the Daleks Invasion of Earth 2150 AD before our next episode. You can rent the movies for pretty cheap on like Amazon Prime and some other places. And as a reminder, if you support us on Patreon for just $1 a month, you'll gain access to our Discord, as well as early access to these episodes. I have been Triss. You can find me on social media at ToonTriss.
And I've been Joy. You can find me at Joy Content.
And we will see you all next time.
Bye.